Operant conditioning is about learning from consequences. Consequences include things like praise, money, or a punishment. For example, if a student gets praised every time they finish their homework, they might start doing it more often because they've learned that it leads to something good. AP Psychology requires that you know all the operant conditioning concepts listed on the screen now. We'll go through them one by one, starting with the concept of law of effect. The law of effect is the idea that actions are more likely to happen again if they lead to something good, and less likely to happen if they lead to something bad. Think of it like this. If you study hard for a test and get a good grade, you're more likely to study hard again next time. But if you tell a joke in class and nobody laughs, you might not tell jokes in class anymore. This law helps explain how people and animals learn what to do, or not do, based on the results of their actions. Reinforcement and punishment are ways to change someone's behavior. Reinforcement means you're trying to make a behavior happen more often. Punishment means you're trying to make a behavior happen less often. Each of these can be positive or negative, but here's the trick. Positive doesn't mean good, and negative doesn't mean bad. In this case, positive means you add something, and negative means you take something away. Let's break it down. Positive reinforcement is when you add something good to make the behavior happen more. For example, if you get a cookie for cleaning your room, you'll want to clean your room again. The cookie is a reward that was added. Negative reinforcement is when you take away something bad to make the behavior happen more. For example, if you buckle your seatbelt and the loud beeping stops, you're more likely to buckle up right away next time. The annoying sound was taken away, so that's negative reinforcement. Positive punishment is when you add something unpleasant to make the behavior happen less. For example, if you talk back and get extra chores, you'll probably think twice before doing it again. The chores were added, so that's positive punishment. Negative punishment is when you take away something you like to make the behavior happen less. For example, if you stay out too late and your phone gets taken away, you'll be less likely to stay out next time. The phone was taken away, so that's negative punishment. So remember, reinforcement means more of the behavior. Punishment means less of the behavior. Positive means adding something. Negative means taking something away. Okay, now let's move on to our next term, reinforcers. A reinforcer is anything that makes a behavior more likely to happen again. It's like a reward. If you do something and then get a reinforcer, you'll probably want to do that thing again. There are two main types, primary reinforcers and secondary reinforcers. A primary reinforcer is something that you naturally like or need. You don't have to learn to want it. It just feels good or helps you survive. Things like food, water, or warmth are primary reinforcers. For example, giving a dog a treat is a primary reinforcer because dogs naturally enjoy food. A secondary reinforcer is something you learn to like because it's linked to a primary reinforcer. Money is a good example. You can't eat money or drink it, but you've learned that money can buy you things you want, like food or games. Praise, stickers, and points in a video game can also be secondary reinforcers because they usually lead to something good. So, in short, primary reinforcers are naturally rewards. Secondary reinforcers are learned rewards, like money or praise. Okay, next is reinforcement discrimination. Reinforcement discrimination is when a person or animal learns that a certain behavior only gets rewarded in specific situations, not all the time. It's like learning to tell when it's the right time to do something. For example, imagine a student learns that raising their hand in class gets them praise from the teacher, but they also learn that raising their hand at the dinner table doesn't get them anything. Over time, they figure out that raising their hand only works in class, not everywhere. That's reinforcement discrimination, learning when a behavior will be reinforced and when it won't. It helps people and animals avoid wasting effort and use their behavior in the right place at the right time. But sometimes we also learn reinforcement generalization. This is when a behavior that gets rewarded in one situation starts to show up in other similar situations, even if there's no reward there yet. It's like the behavior spreads. For example, let's say a child gets praised for saying please at home. After a while, they also start saying please at school, at restaurants, and at friends' houses, even if no one gives them praise every time. That's reinforcement generalization. The child learned that saying please is a good behavior, so they start using it in more places. So while discrimination is about knowing when not to do a behavior, generalization is about trying the behavior in new places. Next up, we have the term shaping. Shaping is a way of teaching someone a new behavior by rewarding small steps that lead to the final goal. These small steps are called successive approximations. Each one gets a little closer to the full behavior you want. For example, let's say you're helping a toddler learn to say the word banana. At first, the child might only say, buh. You smile and clap to show that it's a good start. After some time, they say ba-na, and you cheer again. Finally, they say the full word, banana, and you give them a big hug or a sticker. Each of those small improvements, ba, then ba-na, then banana, are successive approximations. You're shaping their behavior by reinforcing each step that moves them closer to saying the full word. Instinctive drift is when an animal starts doing its natural behaviors instead of the one it was trained to do. For example, imagine you train a dog to sit still when a small toy rabbit runs past. At first, the dog learns to stay put and gets rewarded with a treat. But after a while, the dog starts chasing the rabbit instead of sitting still. That's instinctive drift. Even though it was trained to stay, its natural instinct to chase small moving things kicks in, and it stops following the learned behavior. Superstitious behavior is a learned behavior that occurs when someone thinks their action caused a result, even when it didn't. For example, imagine a student wears a red shirt on the day they get an A on a test. They might start believing the red shirt brought them good luck, even though it had nothing to do with their grade. So next time there's a test, they wear the same shirt again, hoping it helps. This is superstitious behavior, when you repeat an action because you think it caused something good or bad, even if it really didn't. Learned helplessness happens when someone gives up because they feel like nothing they do will change the outcome. In other words, they can't identify a reward or punishment following a behavior. Imagine a child who keeps failing math tests no matter how hard they try. Eventually, they stop studying or trying at all because they believe, why bother? I'll fail anyway. Lastly, reinforcement schedules are different ways of giving rewards to encourage a behavior. We can break reinforcement schedules down into two categories: continuous reinforcement and partial reinforcement. Continuous reinforcement is given every single time the behavior happens. For example, a dog gets a treat every time it sits. The benefit of continuous reinforcement is it tends to lead to quick results. But there's a downside. If the treats stop, the behavior can disappear quickly too. Partial reinforcement is when the reward only comes some of the time. The benefit of partial reinforcement is that it makes the behavior more likely to last, even when rewards don't come often because the person or animal keeps trying in case the reward shows up. The downside is that the behavior may take a longer time to emerge in the first place. There are 4 key types of partial reinforcement you need to know about for AP psychology: fixed interval schedules, variable interval schedules, fixed ratio schedules, and variable ratio schedules. Interval schedules refer to the passing of time. A reward is given after either a fixed or variable amount of time has passed. Ratio schedules refer to the number of responses shown. A reward is given after either a fixed or variable amount of desirable behaviors have been demonstrated. In the fixed interval schedule, a reward is given after a set amount of time has passed, as long as the behavior happened. For example, a student might get a piece of candy for staying on task every 10 minutes. The time stays the same each time, so people often do the behavior more as the reward time gets closer. The next type of partial reinforcement is a variable interval schedule. This means the reward comes after different amounts of time, and the person doesn't know when. An example is checking your phone for a message. You might check often because a message could come at any moment. In a fixed ratio schedule, the person or animal gets a reward after a set number of actions. For example, a worker might get paid after assembling 5 toys. They know exactly how many actions are needed, so they may work fast to reach the reward. In a variable ratio schedule, the reward comes after a changing number of actions, and the person never knows exactly when. Slot machines are a good example. People keep pulling the lever because they might win after 5 tries or 50. This type of schedule is very strong because the surprise keeps the behavior going for a long time. If you're an AP psychology student, make sure you grab my free AP psychology course checklist to test your knowledge of the whole course. There's a link below to get it. It's completely free and a must-have for all my students. I'll also throw in my full AP Psychology glossary and vocabulary bank, and my guide to the 5 hardest AP Psych questions that students get wrong in their exam. This video has been a snippet from my complete 4-hour AP Psych study guide video that covers the curriculum in one mega video. You can click that video on the screen now to watch it.